This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
It is Friday, which means it is time to talk some strikeout props with Rob Friedman, pitching ninja, picking his brain on a disgusting slate Friday. So many good pitchers available, which means it will not be hard to find some strikeout props. And we'll also talk about the strikeout leaderboard for Friday night over at FanDuel Sportsbook. This is Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire, joined here as mentioned by Rob Friedman. Check him out on Twitter at Pitching Ninja. You can find his work on Peacock, MLB.com, MLB on Fox, and of course right here at FanDuel Sportsbook as well. And Rob, what a great slate to get to break down for today. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It is a big slate. There's a good slate yesterday too for a very short slate, but it
made it tough to find because I have to do the dark side for you and talk about bats as well for the Daily Fantasy podcast. And it was hard to find bats I wanted to use because every pitcher was good. Like I was like, do I want to use guys against Zach Gallen? No. Like it's really tough, man. So a bit better today in that regard, but still absurd top end pitching today.
Well, whenever Shohei pitches, it's always a big day.
Exactly.
Even though he hasn't been tremendously dominant lately, but
a lot of walks.
Yeah.
A lot of walks.
I think it's that finger thing. So hopefully, I don't know if it's in his head, partially thinking it's going to come back up, or it really is, but it seems to be affecting him later in games.
Yeah, and there was some question if he'd go today. They confirmed yesterday that he would, which to me says it's a semi-endorsement of health. The fact that on Thursday they were like, okay, he'll be good to go. But a little bit of uncertainty there. And it's interesting because Ohtani is the favorite to lead the slate in strikeouts. So maybe some value elsewhere. We'll talk about that here in just 1 second. But first, a reminder to make sure you're subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. If you want some Women's World Cup talk, we had Dr. Ed Feng on earlier on this week to break down USA versus Vietnam on top of other stuff for the World Cup. Find that on the Covering the Spread podcast feed and on the FanDuel YouTube page and on FanDuel TV Plus. But let's take a look at this bananas slate for tonight here, Rob, because again, so many fun pitchers, not just Ohtani. We got Joe Ryan against Lance Lynn. We got Freddie Peralta, who's pitching pretty well. Hopefully Michael Soroka rounding back into form. A lot of fun guys out there. So when you look at the props, we'll begin at the props for tonight. First, where are you seeing value right now at FanDuel Sportsbook?
You know, that is a great question. I was looking, so I had my parlay pick was Senga for 6Ks or more. Bradish for 6Ks plus and Ohtani for 8Ks plus, just because I'm a big believer. I have to have something on the Ohtani games generally. I mean, it's just the way I think.
I wanted to ask you about the Senga one because he had this walk issue earlier on in the year. And it seems like he kind of refined that as we got into May and June. But the past, 2 months or something, it feels to me as if he's reached a new level. He's been throwing his four-seam fastball a bit less over his past 6 starts, and he has a 31% strikeout rate in that time. He is facing Boston. I feel like that's why the strikeout prop is low for tonight. But I feel like with the way that he's pitching, I feel like it's probably a bit too low. What are your thoughts on Senga in this one?
That's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, obviously Boston's a tough team to face. But to me, it's when you have a guy as hot as Senga, and I think he has figured some things out. Biggest thing with him, and this is something to think about when a pitcher comes over from Japan, is the ball's a little bigger here. Mm-hmm. And he even said it. He's like, I finally adjusted to the baseball. Right. And it matters both on his ghost fork, even though that's been unhittable anyway, but really, fastball command.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And 5.5 the number for Senga taking on the Red Sox for tonight. The individual one for that is -150 to get to 6 strikeouts. Talk about Kyle Bradish as well. Bradish playing in one of the earlier games for tonight, taking on the Rays. Obviously a tough matchup, but I mean, he's pitching well. So we'll put you on Bradish for tonight.
He's pitching well. It's a big spot for him, and I like his stuff. I think he's a dynamic pitcher, and I could see him reaching hopefully 6Ks early so I can relax.
Yeah, exactly. Get that one done out of the way pretty early on. Over 5.5 for Bradish, -112. I would also say this time of year, he benefits from the fact this game is indoors because it's so warm everywhere else. You want those cool temperatures where you can get them, and you're not getting them many places in the U.S. right now. But indoors in Tampa, obviously tough matchup, but I do think that is a benefit for him. Let's talk about Ohtani, because what better subject is there possibly to discuss? You mentioned the 8 strikeouts here, taking on the Pirates. Johan Oviedo on the opposing side of this game. Ohtani, to get to 8 strikeouts, minus 136. And we talked about the walks. And obviously, Rob, walks stink for strikeout props because that's a guaranteed 4 pitches per plate appearance. But even with the walks, Ohtani is still getting, like, he had 12 against the Dodgers, 10 against the White Sox. And that's in this span where the walks have been high. I think that you were talking about the blister. I think that's reflected in his pitch mix because he's been throwing more 4-seamers in the past 6 or so starts. So I feel like that's backed up by the data too, but the strikeouts are still there despite that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And hopefully he's on his way to being better. I think what he did, and this is just my speculation, is he was throwing a lot of sweepers early, like predominantly sweepers, then tried to mix back in splitters. And he has traditionally had some blister issues when throwing splitters. So my thought is then he switches to throwing maybe more 4-seamer, working 4-seamers in, just constantly tinkering, not only to keep hitters off balance, but also to make sure he stays healthy deep in games. Hopefully he's figured it out, because when he's on, he's so much fun to watch.
And the absurd thing too is even with that blister, he's still been going 100 pitches regularly. I don't get it. Like, again, with all that he does with the batting, playing every day, the fact that he can still go out there and go 100 plus regularly is bananas, but also hugely beneficial for us in terms of strikeouts, because it gives you a lot of wiggle room where he can be imperfect but still get you 8 strikeouts.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm hoping. If he goes deep in the game, I expect it from him. He loves to perform in front of that crowd.
Yeah.
And I definitely see it. I hope these things take adjustment time, and he'll figure out how to release it without damaging his fingers anymore.
Right.
But luckily, it's nothing structural. It's just a minor little thing.
And hopefully not his final home start, because I don't want to deprive Angels fans of watching this for a couple more months. Hopefully they can round things into form, keep him there, and keep getting to watch the greatest player of all time in Shohei Ohtani. So the 3-leg parlay for Rob is Shohei Ohtani, 8+ strikeouts, Kodai Senga, 6+ strikeouts, and Kyle Bradish, 6+ strikeouts as well. Now, we do have the daily special with the strikeout leaderboard up over at FanDuel Sportsbook, because all the starters were announced very early Thursday. Bless those teams, all 30 teams getting their starters out there. And Shohei Ohtani is the favorite right now, Rob. He is plus 220. So I want to ask you, given there is some uncertainty around Ohtani with the finger, but also there are a lot of good alternatives on this slate, are you inclined to look away from Ohtani when betting this market?
Yeah, I definitely would. I mean, while I like Ohtani for 8Ks or more, I am worried about, with finger issues, anything could crop up. You just get a little bit of irritation. All of a sudden, he's got to leave the game early, and that would suck. And it would suck if you bet on him here. You have Fromber, who probably will go deep and rack up Ks. I totally get that. Braxton Garrett's always my sleeper. Like, it seems like he quietly can pick up a lot of Ks. And Peralta's been pitching great. And then I had Senga too. And Kikuchi has a pretty good matchup today as well. Yeah.
It's a revenge game. I know that, it seemed like that's on pretty good terms, but it doesn't matter. If you were in the organization for 5 seconds, it is a revenge game. That's the rule. I don't make the rules. I just follow them. Andrew Heaney, a revenge game too, by that logic. So Kikuchi 23-1. And I was going to ask you about him because he's a guy where the peripherals are always really good, but the batted ball data sometimes bites him. But it seems like recently he's been throwing that changeup a bit less, leaning more so on other pitches. And it seems like that has been kind of the right combo for him. Mariners, we've talked about this a lot, love to strike out against lefties. 23-1 for Kikuchi. Is that long enough for you to bite there?
Yeah, I would throw something on that. I mean, he's capable of striking out 10 or more. I could see that against that lineup. And is that going to be enough to win? Yeah, it probably will be.
Yeah.
What do you think the winner today will have? It's probably around that, right?
I'd say 10-11, given the number of guys who can get you double digits here. I think that's what you're going to need. But Kikuchi has that within his range of outcomes. So
yeah, I think so, especially against that lineup. So
absolutely.
And the revenge game too. I like that theory.
I mean, it's 70% revenge game, 30% he's a good pitcher. That's the rational. Well, 20% he's a good pitcher, 10% matchup. That's the breakdown for me, at least, when trying to analyze that.
Yeah, and 23-1. I mean, we're not saying it's going to happen. We're saying
Correct.
It's in the realm of possibility of things that could happen.
Right, around 4% odds.
Yeah.
As long as you take that into account when you're betting, the odds this bet does not hit are 96%. Keep that in mind. Be okay losing whatever you're putting on that, because 96% of the time you will not get it back.
Yeah, if we win, we're heroes. Like we nailed this, and we're going to crow about it forever. If we lose, it's going to be like, yeah, what did you expect?
Exactly. I wanted to ask about Joe Ryan. I find him kind of interesting here, taking on Lance Lynn. Now, Lynn has been on the world's best heater as far as strikeouts go. He had like a 16 strikeout game. So I was looking at his pitch mix. Did he add a curveball? Is that a new pitch for him, or what is that?
He's throwing it more. He's always kind of had it hidden. But he is I think he realized he can't just throw fastballs by folks and survive on that, because everyone knows your shtick.
Yeah.
So he's been mixing it up a lot more and having really good results. And I know people wanted to write him off after the early Lance Lynn showings, but he's still striking dudes out. He can throw. I mean, give him some credit.
Yeah. So I thought that Lynn might be the dark horse here, but it turns out he has shorter odds than Joe Ryan. Ryan has 10 plus strikeouts 4 separate times this year. He's plus 750. I think, to me, I'd rather take the value with some of the guys we were talking about later on. I think that Kikuchi is probably my favorite of the guys on the board at their odds, but Ryan did at least tempt me at plus 750. Any thoughts for you on him against the White Sox?
He could very easily do that. I mean, that is also in the realm of possibility. I know he's uneven for me, but he's certainly capable of striking out the world. Yeah. And you have, Lynn facing a lineup that strikes out a lot too. That kind of, those odds kind of make sense.
Yeah, I got my Byron Buxton bobblehead up here, and he's, I think, 0 for his past 26. So that might
help. He's got as many bobblehead as many hits as the real.
Maybe the bobblehead is the curse. Maybe I need to consider this. I might have jinxed my guy by putting him up there, but so we'll consult with the board to decide if I need to take him down later on. But it sounds like, Rob, you've also got a boost on tap for today, pitching ninja boost. What's that?
We do over at FanDuel. You have a parlay boost. So we've been doing regular straight bet boost, but this is a parlay boost, 3 legs or more, and plus 400 odds or more, and you get a 30% parlay boost. So that's pretty sweet.
Okay, I love it. So maybe check out those strikeout props, looking at Bradish, looking at Ohtani, and looking at Kodai Senga for tonight as well. Maybe dive into those, see what you can see, and see if you can get that parlay boost in there as well over at FanDuel Sportsbook.
You have me second guessing myself, because I had Kikuchi in my parlay and then was like, I love him tonight against this.
I think if the other options weren't as good, I would talk you out. I would talk you into Kikuchi. But the problem is, I agree with you on Senga wholeheartedly. I love Bradish, and it's Ohtani. So I can't talk you out of any of those guys is the issue.
This is what exactly was going on in my head while I was picking. And I was like, I could, but I just feel more strongly about this, which means one of those guys isn't going to come through for me.
Exactly. That's how it always goes.
But
time. I think the process here is good, and I like all 3 of those picks. So good luck to you, Rob. It was a pleasure to have you back on the show for today, and we'll talk to you once again next week.
Awesome. Take care, man.
All right, that is Rob Friedman. Check him out on Twitter at Pitching Ninja. Find his work over at Peacock, MLB.com, MLB on Fox, and of course here at FanDuel Sportsbook, and covering the spread every Friday as well. I'm going to dive into some money lines I like for tonight across Major League Baseball in just 1 second. But first, the U.S. women's soccer team is taking on the world. You can take home bonus bets every time they win with FanDuel, because right now, new customers get $100 in bonus bets guaranteed, plus another $10 in bonus bets for every Team USA win. Sign up between now and August 3rd. Then place your first $5 bet to unlock your bonus bets. That way, you'll be all set to bet on everything from total goals to player props all tournament long. However you want to play, don't miss your chance to get $10 in bonus bets for every Team USA win, plus $100 in bonus bets guaranteed. Make every moment more. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. In New York, 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. In Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Tennessee, and Virginia, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. In Connecticut, 1-888-789 7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Wyoming and Kansas, 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas. In Louisiana, 1-877-770-STOP. In Maryland, mdgamblinghelp.org. And in West Virginia, 1-800-GAMBLER.net. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Let's dig in now to the money lines I like across Friday over at FanDuel Sportsbook. There are 3 of them where I'm currently showing value based on my money line model. Let's begin things up by talking about that Rangers and Dodgers game. This one has moved. It was -108 for the Rangers earlier on. It is now to -116 in favor of the Rangers. I agree with that movement and do still show value at that new number. So the Rangers money line -116 is where I want to go here. If you look at this game and you put it on a neutral park, my model would favor the Rangers there. So putting them at home and putting it at -116, I do still think there is value in them. The implied odds of -116, 53.7%. So this basically says that it's an even matchup if it were on a neutral park, putting it 53.7%, but I've got them a bit more favored than that. Let's talk about why here, because the Rangers taking on Tony Gonsolin. Gonsolin last year had a fantastic year, in large part because he was able to suppress hard contact much better than a lot of guys can do. And that was a legitimate skill. Unfortunately for him, it's not a skill that's translated over to 2023 because he had slipped there, letting up a couple more fly balls as well. And it's led to a decrease in his results, especially recently. Now you put him on the road against a very tough team in the Rangers, whose active roster has a 121 WRC plus against righties. So I feel like the Rangers offense is in a good spot here. I would say as well that the Dodgers could pummel Andrew Heaney, because Heaney, despite improving this year, does still struggle with hard contact. But I think this Rangers team is broadly underrated right now. I think they're better than the market implies. I think they are the better team on a neutral field. So putting them at home to me does imply value at -116. I would show value probably out to around -125 or so. If it gets to -125, then maybe pedal back, but I don't think we'll get there because this number has already moved. I think the Rangers were even money or so last night. So it's moved quite a bit already. Wouldn't expect it to move a ton more from that. So the Rangers, the first money line, even at -116. Second spot I'm turning to is actually betting against my guy, Joe Ryan, and betting on the Chicago White Sox to defeat the Minnesota Twins for tonight. This one has also moved. It was +144 earlier on. It is now up to +138. The implied odds there, 42% for the White Sox to win this game. My model has the White Sox at 45.5%. So still a decent amount of wiggle room where I do show value on the White Sox side of this game. Again, we talked about this with Rob, but Lance Lynn pitching really well right now. Since he started to throw that curveball a bit more, he has a 2.97 skill interactive ERA, thanks to a large boost in strikeouts. He still had some rough results. Some of those came last week against Atlanta. That was on Saturday over the weekend. That's understandable. And the Twins are a pretty tough offense too, but I think the way to neutralize them is being a high strikeout pitcher. And Lynn, right now, with how he's pitching, is exactly that. So I think that's a plus there. I do like Joe Ryan a lot. I think that what he's done is pretty sustainable so far this year. And that's why I do the Twins favored in this game. But again, the White Sox win odds, 45.5%. The implied odds at +138 are 42%. So still a big enough gap there to take the White Sox at +138 over at FanDuel Sportsbook for today. So the Rangers and White Sox, the first two. The final one is the Milwaukee Brewers. We talked about Freddie Peralta a bit with Rob earlier on, and I want to buy into Peralta because he's been awesome recently, and I think that he's not getting enough credit in this number. And I do understand why the Braves are pretty heavily favored here, given that they are a fantastic team, and they've got Michael Soroka out there. So I get it, but Peralta, in 8 starts with more sliders, he has a 3.61 skill interactive ERA with a 31% strikeout rate. Soroka on the opposing side did look pretty decent in his final start before the All-Star break, but even in that game, He had 3 walks compared to 4 strikeouts. His skill interactive ERA in the majors so far this year, 4.68 across 5 outings, 1 in relief, 4 starts. So I do have the Brewers favored in this game. Getting their money line at plus 106 right now, I think is pretty advantageous. A bit skeptical about Soroka for right now. Kind of want to be proven wrong on him before I fully react, put him back to where he was before all the injuries piled up. So to me, Brewers are pretty good value here to take at plus 106 on the money line. So my 3 money lines for tonight, the White Sox plus 138, the Brewers plus 106, and the Rangers minus 116. All those numbers currently available over at FanDuel Sportsbook. That is all that we have here for today and this week on Covering the Spread. Want to give one final big thank you to Rob Friedman, Pitching Ninja, for his time as always. Check out that strikeout leaderboard, see if you see any value over there at FanDuel Sportsbook, and don't forget to check out his parlay boost as well for tonight. If you've got any questions for me, I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JimSannes. Do not forget to subscribe to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what you hear, leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And don't forget to check out the show on the FanDuel YouTube page and FanDuel TV Plus. And again, the Women's World Cup preview is up on both those platforms right now as well with Dr. Ed Feng. Enjoy that game tonight. Watching Team USA taking on Vietnam. Enjoy all the baseball. Have a fantastic weekend. Back with you once again Monday to talk more Women's World Cup with Ed, get his initial takeaways, and talk about the US's next game. This has been Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.